Do y'all remember that movie called Wrong Turn that came out in the early 2000s? Not only does that movie actually take place out in the Appalachia, but this story does too, and it's eerily similar. So this was me, my sister, and a few of our cousins, and we decided to take a camping trip. And I remember all of us getting frustrated because we couldn't find this damn campground we were trying to find, so we just decided to kind of make our own campsite in the middle of the woods somewhere. When you're on those long, back, windy roads in the mountains, you don't have much cell service when you get lost. But us being the adventurous little ghost hunters that we were at the time, we weren't really scared of getting lost. We actually wanted to get lost. So yes, at this point, we are lost, and we don't know which way to go, and the road actually split into two, just like the movie. Little did we know that the road we decided to take was actually taking us further and further into the mountains instead of farther away from the nearest town. Now, at this point, we are very lost. We figured we would just drive straight until we see a part where we can just pull the car off to the side of the road and then take maybe half a mile hike into the woods to set up our camp. Exactly what we found. We found a part where we can pull off and park our car, and we started hiking about, we were about a quarter mile into the woods. We started walking until we found a creek, and we decided that was a good place to camp because you always want to have a creek by when you make a fire. As we have our camp set up, it's actually starting to get dark out. We have our campfire lit, and what do you know? We start hearing these weird noises around us as usual. Things like that are kind of normal out in the Appalachia, so we weren't really getting scared. We were actually having fun with the spookiness. That was until we thought we heard what sounded almost like a whistle, but it was more of a woo. Out in the Appalachia, it's one thing to hear a whistle because one, no you didn't, but the second thing was we all looked at each other and we were like, that wasn't a whistle. Right as we started to shine the flashlight around the camp, you couldn't really see anything in the dark. We did hear it again, and it was ooh-wee-oo. The only weapons that we had on us at the time was pocket knives and machetes, so we decided to take a lap around the camp with the machete. As we're walking around the camp, we don't really see anything in the dark, and we didn't hear that whistle noise again, but we did hear something go, hey. At that point, all of us got so scared, and we're laughing and scared at the same time. We run back and jump inside of the tent. And that is when we started hearing footsteps, like walking around our campsite and merely close to the tent. We start threatening at this point, hey, we have a weapon with us, don't come close. And after saying that, that was when we heard the most eerie laugh, literally like that laugh that guy from Wrong Turn had. All of us literally started screaming, and we jumped on top of each other in the tent, screaming and holding each other. When we started to calm down, we didn't hear the noises anymore. Instead, something ended up putting out our fire. It literally sounded like a bucket of water was pouring onto our fire. Now at that point, all of us jumped out with each one of our knives and our machetes, just swinging like crazy people, but we didn't see anybody there. So we just have a bunch of girls just swinging machetes in the dark. Once we realized nothing was there, we all got back into the tent for safety, and we didn't get a drop of sleep that night until the next morning. Next morning, we got out of our tent to investigate, and not only was our fire put out, but it was so strange. We had ashes from the fire drizzled, like just drizzled around our camp all over the ground. Out in the Appalachia, you never know what you're gonna get, but I will say there's only one thing scarier than animals and certain things out in the woods, and that's people.
Another scary story, bitch. Okay, so this one is less about ghost and more about like possession. I was at work one time, right? And I was 18. This guy comes through, and I'm on, like, talking to him on the speaker. Hello, what can I get for you? How can I help you? Like, whatever. He sounded, like, very old English, so I'm like, okay, this plain as fucking day sounds like an older white man, like, maybe in his 90s. Dead the fuck ass. And he gets to the window. It's like a 25-year-old biracial man fully tatted, and I was just like, wait a minute. That wasn't the same voice I just heard. Like, wait a minute, because, wait, what? Wait, hold up, wait. When I look closer at him, his eyes are orange, and I mean, like, this orange, like, orange. In my mind, I'm like, oh, shit, maybe that's, like, contacts or something. Like, let me not stare, let me not, like, just, like, be up in his face like this or whatever. But I looked a little harder. Those weren't contacts. Those were his actual eyeballs. I've seen people with contacts. Those were his actual eyes, like, bright orange, talking in a really weird accent. You don't look like you should be talking that way. Like, not being funny, but, like, 25-year-old mixed man, fully tatted, should not sound like an old white man from the 1800s. Whatever. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm, like, overthinking this. Maybe he just, like, maybe he's different. Maybe he's, like, from out of town, whatever. So, he hands me his money. He grabs my hand like this, puts the money down, and, like, oh, I didn't like it. I was like, ew, why the fuck did you grab my hand like that? I'm trying to ignore it. I'm like, okay, here's your change, have a good day. Shut the window. Ugh. I go and sit down because we did not have a busy day. No one was fucking there. He was like the first customer in like 30 fucking minutes. And we were all sitting in the lobby, me, my manager, and like 3 other coworkers, and we're sitting there, and the guy in the window does 1 lap. Slow as fuck. And I'm like, hey guys, am I tripping, or is this man circling the building staring at me right now? And they were like, well, I don't see him. Like, maybe if he comes around again, I can tell you. So he comes around again. They're like, they're more alert this time. They're like, oh, no, like, he's definitely staring at you. Like, he's definitely staring at you. But, like, he was, like, slow driving, staring at me, like, crazy as fuck. He circles again. So he circled 3 fucking times. And at this point, one of my coworkers, he stands up and he's like, all right. Because, like, he treated me like his little sister. He did not play about no shit when it came to, like, being weird towards women or, like, no stalking shit. He was like, all right, what the fuck? So once he stood up, the man fucking drove off, whatever. So I'm like, okay, that's a little weird. Next day comes around. Shift is going great. We have a little downtime. This man comes through again. Same voice, same eyes, same mannerisms, same just like so fucking like it's like he acted like he didn't know how to be a person. Like, and I don't mean to like sound like an asshole when I say that, but like he sounded so slow. Like, not like mentally slow, but like he couldn't comprehend how to talk in this day and age, if that makes any sense. Again, gave me his money, but this time he grabbed my hand a little harder. And I'm just like, when he did that, bitch, I started feeling nauseous. I felt a little dizzy. I was not feeling good. I was like getting really hot. I was just like, hold up, like, oh my God, like I needed to I actually had to go on break because of this. And so I handed him his money back. I'm like, have a good day, whatever. And I went and sat down. I took my break, went and sat down. This man circles the building 3 times again. And at this point, my coworkers are like, okay, well, what the fuck is happening? Like, I've never seen some shit like this before. Man has an ancient accent, unnatural eye color. He's grabbing your hand in a way that doesn't make any sense. Like, we're concerned. Like, we're at this point, like, they were actually concerned. So, if you don't know me, I'm very spiritual. I grew up religious, but I shifted more to spirituality. I understand things for what they may be, what the fuck ever. So I reached out to some people around me and I was like, hey, this is happening. Am I tripping, or is this like is this dark? Right? Like, is this a dark thing that I'm dealing with, or am I tripping? 5 out of 5 people I contacted, you need to do a cleansing right now. You're not tripping. You need to cleanse yourself. That man has grabbed your hand repeatedly. That man has had interactions with you. He is preying on you. He is stalking you. He is mapping you out. You need to do a cleansing right the fuck now. Mind you, as all this is happening, I'm still sick. I'm still nauseous. I'm still ill. I don't feel good. I'm still having like hot and cold flashes. So I did the cleansings. Immediately felt nothing. And when I say cleansings, I mean like religious, like Bible verses. I did spiritual shits, salt, smudging. I did everything under the fucking sun. I felt better. I didn't feel nauseous. I didn't feel sick. I didn't feel any of that. Never saw this man again. He never came back. He never came to order food again. He never did any fucking thing. He was never seen again. But till this day, part of me feels like something was so fucking deeply wrong about that, because it was so unnatural, and I don't know what the fuck to make up. I don't want to go on the whole topic of shapeshifters and vampires, and I don't want to go on that because it's like I'm going to lose credibility of being sane in the head. But like, I don't know what to make of that. I don't know what that was. I don't know what was happening. But when I do think about it, I get really fucking creeped out, because that was the most like abnormal experience I think I've ever fucking had with another person.
One night, there was a driver driving on US 23 near Cary, Ohio. And he decides he's going to pull over for the night and get some sleep. So he pulls into this rest area, and he notices that his truck is the only vehicle there for the night. So he gets in the back of his truck, he lays down, he goes to bed. When all of a sudden, he hears a loud bang, and his truck begins to shake violently. So he jumps up, and he's wondering, what is going on? And it stops. And right at that moment, he notices that his cabin is ice cold, even though it is the middle of summer and it's 90 degrees outside. So he gets out of his truck, and to his surprise, his whole trailer and truck has been completely moved over. And not only that, there is a large dent in his trailer, like something had hit it very hard. And there's significant amounts of damage on the side of his truck. So he gets back in his truck, and he calls dispatch. And they say, go ahead and contact 911 and tell them what happened and file a police report. So the police are speaking with him on the phone. They say, hey, it's probably going to be about 30 minutes. We're responding to another call. This is an emergency, right? And he says, no. So he gets, he's just sitting in his truck, and he's waiting for the police to come now. He decides, you know what? I need to go inside and use the restroom and, just kind of get some fresh air. So he gets out of his truck and he starts going towards the building when he notices there's a man standing next to the building. And he can't really make out anything of this man, his face, anything that he's wearing. It's just sort of a shape of this man. And all of a sudden he notices this man is pointing at him. And then he starts running right directly at him. And so this driver runs and jumps back in his truck. And he's expecting this guy to come and confront him and come into his truck. But as he turns back and looks out the window, this man is gone. And so he gets in the back of his truck and he grabs his pistol, and he's just clenching it, thinking, someone is about to enter the truck and I'm going to have to fight them. When all of a sudden he hears a loud thump, thump, thump on the top of his truck. And all of a sudden he sees a head pop down into his windshield. And this black tongue comes out and it starts licking the windshield. And just at that moment, the police arrive. And this thing, whatever it is, slowly goes back up and disappears. So he's all shaken up. He can't really talk. He gets out of the vehicle and he tells the police, hey, something hit my truck and there's a guy out here. And the police are confused. And he can't understand why they're so confused. And they said, something hit your truck? And he said, yeah. And so the police say, well, come here. Show us where, something hit your truck. And he's amazed when he goes out and he sees that there is now no damage on his truck. His truck is still parked in the parking space and hasn't moved. And everything seems fine. So he, gets in his truck and he leaves. And he said he would never return to that rest area again. Now, this next story takes place in Arizona, near Holbrook. This truck driver pulls off the interstate onto some back roads to park his truck for the night. And he gets in the back of his truck and lays down. And all of a sudden he notices this bright light is peering through his windshield. And it's getting brighter and brighter. And he jumps up and who is this ridiculous person that's shining their brights into my window? But that's when he notices, when he gets in the front seat, is that it's not a vehicle, it's not a car, but it's this disc-shaped craft. And it is landed right on the road out in front of his truck. And at this time, he notices that his CB radio and all the electronics in his car are going haywire. And the next thing he knows, now he is driving on the highway again, but he's going in the opposite direction. It's now the afternoon, it's daytime, and he's confused about what is going on. So he calls in to dispatch, and dispatch is very angry and like, hey, where have you been? You were supposed to drop that load off 12 hours ago, and you never did. Like, what's going on? And he can't figure out, what happened, because he wasn't supposed to drop the load off until that morning, and now it's the next day. And almost 25 hours had passed from that time when he sees this light in his window.
I am back with another story about my haunted house. So my house is haunted, and my husband and I were sitting on the couch watching TV. Our daughter was just playing with some blocks, and then both of our cats, this is important, both of the cats were on the couch with us as well. And we're just relaxing, having a great afternoon, when all of a sudden we hear this bang noise coming from the basement. So normally this wouldn't alarm us because our cats do like play down there, but both of them were upstairs. And every other member of the family that lives in this home was upstairs as well. So we just looked at each other and I was like, is the washing machine on or something? The dryer, like something that could have made that noise? And he was like, no. So I was like, you need to go check the basement. So he did, and he came back upstairs and he was like, there's nothing I can see. So I was like, okay. So I go down there, and we've been like organizing because I'm pregnant, and so we've been kind of like organizing stuff, trying to, make room for this other baby. And I noticed one of the bins was on the floor, and they had previously been stacked, and they're just like storage bins that I've been putting like old baby clothes in that no longer fit my daughter. And my grandma recently passed, and I got some of the things from her home. And before I ever got pregnant, before I ever had a baby, my grandma was really into buying like baby toys and baby clothes and stuff like that. And it just so happened that some of the clothes that she bought were like in the bin that had fallen over. And the clothes like still have the tags on them and everything. And I like look on the floor, and the only clothes that had spilled out of the bin were boy clothes from my grandma, like that she had bought. And I thought that was really odd because the bins have been down there for weeks. I kind of totally forgot that my grandma had like bought stuff like that, and I just really took this as a sign, like I think my grandma's like saying hi or something, because if you've been watching my TikToks, I before my grandma passed away, asked her to send me a little boy when she got to heaven. And I was not pregnant at the time of her passing. It took a couple of months for me to get pregnant after she passed. And then a couple of weeks ago, we found out it was a boy. So I don't know, but it's definitely a paranormal experience if you ask me.
Hello guys. Okay, so back to my boo-boo stories, since you asked. Okay, so this is an experience I had almost about 13 years ago. Okay, so this time I was doing a sales job where I actually had to go to clients' houses. Okay, so basically it's a door-to-door sales job. I was a service provider for my clients, providing internet service and so on. Okay, so basically I had to visit clients at their doorstep to promote these services, get signatures, and also follow up with them. My field time actually starts at 4 p.m. because that is where the population actually comes back after work. Most of the times I was actually placed in either the extreme east or extreme west. Okay, so for this particular experience, I was in the west side. I wouldn't mention where, but one of the largest area in the west. Okay, there's a lake beside. Yeah, so it was some of the blocks around that I actually was assigned to, and this was during the initial days of my buddy training and so on. Overall, I actually lasted on the job only for 3 weeks, but yeah, because for obvious reasons, I didn't want to continue there. Yeah, so what happened was, this particular day, right, it was actually, I very, very clearly remember, it was the Hindu festival Mahashivratri. Okay, so I think it was around February 2013. That day, it was a Sunday and it was a Mahashivratri, and I had to go out on field. Okay, so Mahashivratri meaning is one of the major festivals in India where we celebrate and worship Lord Shiva. It's his particular day on that day. I'm not sure whether it was a full moon or there was no moon that day. Okay, so typically if you are spiritually inclined, you would have heard of this stuff where there's some kind of supernatural energies surrounding full moon days and days without moon and so on. Arrived at this particular place at around say about 5:30 in the evening. And how it actually start is that go all the way up to the last floor, I mean the highest floor, slowly knock on the units and then we reach the ground floor. I remember this block, it was super creepy. It started to pour out of nowhere. Okay, it was only 5:30 and I remember the entire place was pitch black. And mind you, these are the blocks of the old west side of Singapore, and I bet they haven't even done any major estate renewals or HIP upgrades and so on, and it's super old. Even those void decks and so on, it's just very overall a creepy vibe. So we actually had our team meetings there, and then we branched out into our assigned blocks. So I actually got all my forms and so on, and I left to this particular block. So I actually started off with the 13th floor. Okay, irony, it was the 13th floor. And I remember you've seen those old blocks where they actually face the corridor, like it faces the roadside, and it was a long stretch of corridor. So I think you can see at least about 5 to 6 units facing the road. 4 segregated lift areas, because obviously the block is super long, right? And from 13th floor, right, there's no corridor, there's no walkway. So I had to take the lift or stairs down to every single unit. So when I went up to the 13th floor, this whole column of units, right, it's just 2 units facing each other on each single floor. When I exited the lift on 13th floor, right, there's 1 unit on my right and left. And this particular unit was closed. Okay, it was filled with newsletters, papers, red papers, and so on. So I thought it's like, oh, okay, maybe someone was staying here and obviously he's not home. If not, why is there like a clump of newsletters and so on at the gate? It's like, okay, never mind, no need to attend to that house. So I just erased off that particular unit number. On this side, I saw this Chinese house. There was this guy, and I saw his puppies, playing inside the house and so on. So I was like, okay, never mind, you can just go and knock on his door. So he came, he was very nice and promoting this internet service and so on. Then he agreed to actually sign up for it. So I requested, for him to pass me his bill and also for his IC for verification, which he gave it to me. But because it's internet service, right? So I needed to verify his phone bill. And then he said, okay, but I'm not from this service provider. I'm actually from a different company, the green company. I say it's fine. I just need your phone number. So he went in, and I was standing I'm standing at the entrance all the way. I'm not inside his house. And this was like around 6 something in the evening. So when he actually went in, he did not come back. I was starting to think like, what is taking him so long, okay? And I can see that it's only him in the house with his puppy dog. And I thought maybe, okay, he's finding for his bills and so on because it's been quite some time, right? And then guess what? I actually told that door on this side was closed, was shut, this unit. This door opened and I saw this guy standing at the opposite side, behind me, in that same attire. Oh my god, I'm getting goosebumps, can you see? He was standing at this unit, holding the document, and he was just looking at me. He was not like, excuse me, here you go. No, he was just looking at me, holding the letter in the hand. I just froze for a second because I know that there's jumbo flats and there's units where you can actually, have intersection doors and so on, where you can move between the units. But this particular place, right, they had stairs in between both units. And there's no way that this guy could have actually entered from his house and then cross over to this particular unit and open the door. So I just took this letter from the guy and I sent his details to my team lead to verify if this particular phone number is tagged to this unit that he's standing at. Guess what he responded? Move from there. And that said it all. See, I'm getting goosebumps. Okay, which means he knew that something was up. The moment I actually saw that message, right, I think innately my fear just kicked in, and you won't believe me, I actually threw the letter onto the floor, not caring whether I lost my job, did not care whether he was human or not, and I dashed down a few stories. Okay, I ran down the stairs and I think I ended up at a 10th or 11th floor, gasping for breath, and I stood at the staircase, frozen, not knowing what to do. Not knowing what the hell just happened, trying to process everything that's going on because I was super creeped out and I was so scared that if I take the lift or anything, I'm just going to get stuck and so on. And I could not reach my team lead, which was making me, freak out even more. I mean, I am on duty and have to, finish up my client pool and all that. So I had no choice but to, muster some courage. And yeah, I just went back to carry on my stuff. So far so good, no other creepy experience. I stumbled upon this Chinese family. They were actually doing prayers for Mahashivaratri. I was kind of surprised because, hey, it's not a common thing to see a non-Hindu or non-Indian person worshipping the deities, and especially on Hindu festivals, okay? Going to the temples is one thing, but on Hindu festivals in their house, they were actually doing wearing those beads, the mantras and the garlands and so on, and worshipping mantras. And if you see Chinese houses, the altars are quite high. So this uncle was actually standing, and I think it was his wife and daughter worshipping the Lord Shiva. I'm actually at the gate, but I did not want to disturb them. And I kind of felt a bit relieved because after experiencing something upstairs, that was not so pleasant. So I quietly sat at the steps outside their house. And then by this time, it was already around 7:30. I also went to another house. This was also a Chinese uncle house. And that actually spooked me a bit because his whole house was full of just prayer items. And he was the only person living there. And there were candles lit up everywhere. Okay, maybe that's how his nature of praying. But I'm not used to all these things, okay? And being on this job for just like close to 3 weeks, and I'm experiencing all of these things very new. Till today, I cannot comprehend what happened actually in the third floor. After that, I went to actually check the place whether there's connecting units, but I just couldn't get a proper answer. They are not joint units. I just know it was not normal.
This girl sent me an email about a mimic in her house, and this girl came with receipts. She came with pictures, and this story is terrifying. So when Sarah was 7, she moved into a house that was in a somewhat rural neighborhood. The house seemed normal at first, but for some reason Sarah was nervous, and her 14-year-old brother, after about 2 weeks of living there, was the first person to start seeing things. Now, her brother would voice this to her, and she was only 7 years old, so this obviously really scared her, and she said that she had experienced a few things too, like her and her sister were chased up the stairs at one point by something that they couldn't see, but the worst experience by far happened to her 5-year-old brother. So one day her 5-year-old brother is walking up the stairs and he stops because he sees Sarah is standing at the top of the stairs. So he calls out her name and she doesn't respond. So he's kind of like, what? That's weird. So he starts walking up the stairs a little bit. But then he starts noticing something. Sarah's eyes are like this yellowish, weird color, like an off-white yellow color, and they're glowing. So this obviously startles him, so he turns on the light. And when he turns on the light, he sees this massive creature standing at the top of the stairs. It has this off-white, like glowing pits for eyes, these really long claws for fingers, and its jaw is unhinged about 2 feet wide. So he just starts screaming, runs back down the stairs, and he runs into Sarah's room, and he is absolutely sobbing hysterically. So she obviously is like, what is going on? What's wrong? And he could only describe it at his 5-year-old self as a very angry version of Sarah. He was only able to fully describe it when he was older. Things would only progress from here. So a couple days later, her dad was in his room when suddenly he starts to hear this sobbing sound, and it sounds like her older brother is just absolutely sobbing in the bathroom. So her dad, obviously concerned, walks into the bathroom. And as he's walking into the bathroom, he can see something like a shadow in the bathroom. But once he gets to the bathroom, he can't see anyone in there. There's nobody in the bathroom. And then he goes to find her brother to see what the hell is going on. And her brother was not crying in the bathroom. Then Sarah began to have like these very vivid nightmares. And she didn't explain exactly what they were, but she said that she had them almost every single night and that she still remembers them to this day. She also said that whatever this thing was only targeting her and her siblings. That was it. It was very, very seldom target her parents. So one day her and her siblings are all playing and her little brother has a friend over, and the little brother's friend goes into the bathroom and he comes out of the bathroom and he's like, hey, you guys need to let your dog out of the attic. Why is your dog in the attic? And they're all like, we don't have a dog. What are you talking about? And he's like, there's something in the attic. And then they hear this and it sounds like there's a dog in the attic scratching the floor, and then they hear this whimpering sound, and it sounds like a dog whimpering but off, like not quite right. So they all get really scared and they go and tell their dad, listen, there's something in the attic. There's like an animal or something up in the attic. So the dad goes near the attic and he hears the sounds too. So he climbs up the attic stairs, and as soon as he does, the sound just stops, and he looks in the attic and there's nothing in the attic. Well, later on that night, her little brother stayed up later than everybody else did in the house, so he was kind of up alone, and he starts hearing that sound from the attic again. And this little kid is brave as because he starts to go up in the attic, and he goes up the stairs, he opens the attic door. So the way that he described it is he could not really describe it. And she said that she's actually seen this dog before, and it's a form that this thing would sometimes take to scare them, and that the only thing that she can say is that it had these massive eyes that were this color that she had never seen before, that none of them had ever seen before, and that these eyes were so big that she still sometimes, when she's alone, just pictures seeing those eyes. She said it looked completely inhuman. It almost didn't even look like a dog. It was just in like a shape of a dog, but then also kind of a human. So it's kind of like a humanoid. And then a couple nights later, she starts to have this nightmare, and it's this very specific nightmare that she would have over and over again. And she would find herself in this like old 1960s style like kitchen. She said that this kitchen had somewhat like flickering dim lights, and that there was always this 17-year-old looking girl standing in the kitchen that would like welcome her in. She said that she explained this girl as looking exactly like a female version of her dad and her uncle when they were young. In one of these dreams, the girl comes up to her and tells her, very soon you are going to be able to sleep peacefully, I promise you. And a couple nights later, she had a dream where this girl chased off everything that had been scaring her in all of her nightmares, and she just stopped having the nightmares after that. So fast forward to 2017, they got ferrets. One's name was Marble, the other one's name was Blizzard, and then in 2018 they got another one named Sugar Cube. And she was so afraid of whatever this thing was hurting them, but it never hurt them. them ever. It would only do that to her, unfortunately. Now, unfortunately, Blizzard passed in 2023, and that's when she had another dream. And she saw this girl again, and the girl told her, you know, as she was holding Blizzard, don't worry, I will take care of him until you come and join us. Now, she said that although the nightmare stopped, the behavior from this mimic didn't stop. In fact, she would be at home alone sometimes, and she would hear this mimic screaming and crying, pretending to be her mother in danger. She said that it would pretend to be her ferrets and scratch at her door. It would literally pretend to be everybody that she knew. And in 2025, she finally managed to catch it on camera for the first time. And these are the pictures. Take a good look. This one right here, it's kind of hard to tell. You can see like the eyes on top, and then you can see the doorknob like right in the middle of it. It looks like a very skinny, tall figure. You can see it more in this picture right here. I can't see anything in this picture, so you guys are gonna have to tell me if you see anything, but these are the pictures. This one is creeping me out. She said that this is the form that it takes most often, is like this tall black figure with these yellow glowing eyes. Now, she said that usually this thing would only bother her inside, but that recently it did start to bother her outside. And this is where it gets really interesting, because this is where she doesn't really understand if this thing is bad or if it's good, because she doesn't know if it's asking her for help or not. And I'm gonna tell you why. She said that recently she was outside and that her backyard is at like a forest area, and that it began calling her in a voice that she did not recognize. And it was telling her to come into the forest, and it was telling her that it needed help. She said that she ignored this the first time that it happened because there was no way in hell that she was going to go into the forest after hearing this thing and after all that she had experienced. But later on that night, she's in bed and she's trying to sleep when she hears this bang, bang, bang on her freaking window, on her bedroom window. So she's trying to ignore it because she knows what it is. And then she hears this scratching noise on her window. And it's literally doing this every single night. It is banging and scratching on her window and telling her to come out to the woods in the middle of the night. So after about 2 weeks of this happening, she finally gives in and she actually goes outside. Not at night, she does it during the day, and it leads her to this clearing in the middle of the forest. And in this clearing is like this playset thing. And she also said that there was this shed, like this little shed. She said that this shed reeked, literally smelled like, and that it was littered with black widow spiders. So her going inside of that shed was absolutely out of the question. And this is what the shed looks like. She said that walking near the shed gave her this intense feeling of dread, and it only got worse as she walked closer to it. And when she finally reached the point where she was like almost in the shed, but like a little outside of it, she just started to panic. Her ears started to ring. She started to cry uncontrollably, and she physically could not take another step forward. She said that she did eventually go to the other side of the shed, like in the back of the shed. And in the back of the shed, she saw this circle where there was like animals like in a circle, like they were deer skulls. And as soon as she saw this, she got the hell out of there because she doesn't really understand the correlation between why this mimic led her to the shed and why there's like that activity behind the shed. She also said that her dad had confirmed to her by showing her a picture that the woman that she was seeing in her dreams, or that girl that she was seeing in her dreams, was in fact her father's triplet sister who had passed like years before. And I actually told a story about how that happened in another video. I'll tag that video if I can find it. I have to be able to find it to tag it. But this is what she left us with. It still bothers me, but I'm starting to wonder, why did it show me the shed, and why did it want me to see it so badly? Is it really evil, or does it need my help? So what do you guys think? I'm so sorry I don't have time to do the shout outs or anything, any commentary or anything, but I want to know what you guys think. Do you think this is bad, or do you think this is good? I gotta say, I don't think it's good because of the fact that it was scaring the crap out of them. Maybe it's two different things. Maybe she's mistaking it for two different things. Maybe there's two entities. I have no idea. But obviously one of them is not good. That's just my personal opinion. But drop your thoughts, opinions, suggestions in the comments. But as always, please be respectful. I love you guys so much. Keep sending me your scary stories, and have a spooky night. Spooky kisses, haunted hugs.
Growing up, has anyone else ever been geocaching? Because I have so many crazy geocaching stories. Usually they're fun, but I have quite a few scary ones as well. Because if y'all love my stories about the Southern Appalachia, you're gonna love my stories about Northern Appalachia. People don't realize that the Appalachia actually goes down from Georgia all the way up to Maine. When we were geocaching up in Maine in the middle of Acadia National Park, I was only about 18 years old at the time, and it was me and a few friends, and we went up to Maine to visit some friends and to do some geocaching. And I don't know if you guys remember, but they used to have these GPSs that would take you on the track itself on the way to the geocache. They were specifically made for that. But we thought it was really weird that our geocache GPS kept glitching. We kind of just thought like maybe it's the service because we are in the middle of the mountains, but literally it just kept glitching and taking us off path. Now when you geocache, it is totally normal to go off the path, but this was taking us like off the geocache path. But us being us, we kind of just trusted it and thought maybe like the weather and the service was glitching. So we ended up getting lost out there in the middle of the wilderness. So at some point we obviously started getting stressed out. Like, guys, we are way too off the path. Like, we're getting lost. We started hearing creepy noises. We started psyching each other out until we started feeling like that we weren't alone. We felt like we were literally being watched. At that point, we all started to really get scared, and then we ended up rushing to find the geocache box. And if you don't know what geocaching is, basically you find this box or treasure box in the middle of the woods. You're supposed to take something out of it, and then you leave something in it. And then there's geo coordinates that lead you to these boxes. Crazy thing is we kept thinking we were hearing screams all around us, like female screams all around us. And northern Appalachia is just as dangerous as the south. So when you hear screaming in the woods, no, you didn't. Or you might have. As we're walking all psyched out, we finally found the geocache box and we run up to it. Kind of forgot about the screams for a second because we got excited. But when we opened the box, we didn't expect to find what we found. In the box, it was normal, typical camping gear stuff until my friend found a rolled up note. I thought it was kind of funny, like right around the time we found the note, nobody could hear the screams anymore. So my friend decided to open the note. When he opened this note, you can tell that this note was fairly new because it was written in pen and it wasn't faded. He literally just looks at all of us like, yo. All gathered around and looked at the note together, and this note literally said, watch out, you're next. Now listen, it could have been someone messing with simple geocachers, but regardless, how would you feel finding that in the middle of the Appalachian Mountains after hearing a bunch of female screams? But like I say in all my other videos, guys, there's only one thing scarier than animals out in the woods, and that's people.
If you have a cat, you already know. They stare at things that aren't there. At least, that's what I used to think. Welcome to the Midnight Sesh. We have some dragon soda joining us here. And the story that I have for you today is called My Cat Wasn't the Only One Watching. My cat Luna started acting weird about 2 weeks ago. She'd sit in the corner of my room, just staring at the ceiling. Not moving, not blinking, just locked in. At first, I thought it was normal cat behavior, but then it got worse. She started following something, like physically tracking it across the room with her eyes, turning her head slowly, like she was watching someone walk, except there was no one there. So one night, I decided to test it. I sat on my bed and said out loud, "Okay, what are you looking at?" Luna didn't look at me. She just kept staring. Then she slowly looked over my shoulder, directly behind me, and her ears flattened. And that's when I felt it. That feeling you get when someone is too close to you. I didn't turn around. I didn't want to. But I grabbed my phone and switched to selfie mode. Slowly, I lifted it up, positioned it just enough to see behind me. And for a second, nothing. Just my room. And the screen glitched. And something appeared, something tall, standing right behind me. Its head slightly tilted, like it was studying me. I dropped my phone immediately, spun around. Nothing was there, of course. Nothing ever is. I laughed it off, told myself it was just my mind playing tricks. But Luna was still staring, right at the same spot. Then she hissed. Loud, aggressive. I had never heard her do that before. And then she ran straight out of the room. That's when my phone buzzed. I picked it up. Camera app still on selfie mode. And there it was, clear as day behind me. Closer now. Its face right next to mine. And the worst part, it wasn't looking at the camera. It was looking at me. And then it smiled. My phone screen went black. And from somewhere behind me, I heard a whisper, soft, right in my ear, "You finally see me." That's what I have to say about that one. Absolutely nothing. I have a lot of pets, guys, and every time they're staring at a corner or something, I'm like, what do you see? Let me know your thoughts down below. Go ahead and like, comment, share, all of the wonderful goodies. I love you as always. I hope you're able to sleep tonight. Bye.
I love these scary stories on TikTok, and I honestly think that some of them do seem to check out and they are true. But I know one that is definitely true because it comes from a close friend of mine that has mentioned it a few times. It made an impression on her. So she was hiking the Appalachian trails and for a couple days, setting up campsites. And so one night that she set up camp at the shelter. There was another guy there and stuff. He kept to himself, which was good. But she set up camp at this shelter. And she said she was woken up at like 2 or 3 a.m. and she heard these footsteps. Now, the footsteps were so loud they woke her up, for one. She said they were definitely not an animal. They were so loud and they were circling the shelter. And she said that they were so like calculated, abrupt, deliberate, like a metronome, like they were rhythmic. So she was freaked out. She knew it wasn't an animal. She said she just knew it didn't sound like one. So, and she asked the guy, like, kind of, what's that? Did you hear that? And he seemed scared, but he was kind of just like, don't look at it, you know. He just wanted to stay away from it. Like, you know, pretend you don't know it and it won't bother you. Which I understand that. That's probably what I would do. But, so anyway, so they just stopped abruptly. And it was really weird because the footsteps just stopped. So, like, they're circling, and then there's no fading off, nothing like that. They just stopped. And she was, like, you know, freaking out for a good while after they stopped because they were so loud they woke her up. They're circling where she is, and then they just stopped, like, as though somebody or something is just there. So she was really freaked out. Eventually, she just fell back asleep. But she woke up in the morning and she was like, she saw the guy again. So she was like curious, like, what could that have been? You know, am I crazy? And he like confirmed it, but it was scary. I guess he told her when stuff like that happens, he just minds his own business. And that's the best thing to do. Like, you don't go looking for it or something. I think she always says that he said. But it's very weird because that's what you always hear, like with these stories. And that's another reason I really think some of them are true. But she was looking around in the morning. She didn't see any footprints. And I don't know. I think that's weird. I've thought of it a few times too since she brought it up. And I think that's a pretty good one. And I wonder what it could have been.
So listen to me.
Scary ghost story time. So the other night, I did a private event at a law firm for some attorneys and their employees. So when I get there, they bring me into this conference room so I can set up, and I'm setting up and everything. And all of a sudden, out of thin air, this spirit of this gentleman came in, and I knew he just recently passed, older gentleman, very tall in a gray suit, and he's looking at me and he's showing me a contract. And I'm looking at him, I'm going, okay, show me. So I'm looking down, you know, at the table. He showed me the contract, something about a signature, and he kept saying the name Larry. So I'm like, all right, you know, I'll try and find out more information. He completely disappeared. So now the first client comes in for their reading, and when she comes in, I said, hey, let me ask you something. Did an older attorney just recently pass here? And she's like, yeah, that's Jim. And as a matter of fact, this was his office. So I'm like, okay. I said, you know, because he's asking me about this contract and asking me about Larry, something about Larry. So she wasn't sure who the Larry was or anything about the contract. So each person that came in, I would ask them. So anyway, the next day, after I'm finished, the next day I get an email thanking me for coming and how amazing I was, and also another little bit of information. Check it out.
Let's look at a creepy viral video. This video is a little bit on the older side. It was taken back in 2012, and it shows these two little girls sitting at a table eating, and everything appears to be normal until one of the girls starts to cry. Her older sister starts to laugh at her and mock her for crying until she turns around and she screams and cries as well.
What was that? Oh, what, Nanny? Look at me. What are you scared of? The fish? Oh, the fish died. What? Angel's sleeping already. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. Turn around. Turn around. Turn around. But you gotta listen to me. Turn around. Look at me. What's the matter?
I remember watching this video when it first came out, and it's always scared me. It's always freaked me out how quickly she goes from laughing and having a good time to turning around and being terrified and running away. There's a lot of debate as to what actually happened in this video. A lot of people think that she saw something paranormal or something demonic that we can't see, and other people think it's genuinely just a hoax since it was uploaded around Halloween. Either way, there is just something so eerie and unsettling about that video, and it still scares me whenever I watch it. But as always, let me know your thoughts and let me know if you remember watching this, because it is a pretty old video and it went pretty viral back in the day.
This ship in Baltimore's Inner Harbor is said to have a crew aboard. They're just not alive. What's up? I'm Becca. I like to talk about ghosts, haunted places, and the things that people like to think aren't real. This is the Constellation at Baltimore's Inner Harbor. It's the oldest surviving naval vessel in the United States. It's been through war, storms, and centuries of history. The crew that works here say they aren't alone. Alleged footsteps are heard below the deck. Doors creak open and slam shut, all on their own. Visitors and staff have reported shadow figures moving through the corridors, cold spots that don't match the weather. And the most reported claim is the feeling of being watched. In my opinion, water is a conduit. It holds energy. It doesn't just carry history, it literally holds on to it. In places like Baltimore's Inner Harbor, the water has seen centuries of accidents and maritime deaths. From modern day incidents, from wartime activity to working ships, Baltimore has seen it all. This ship and the water that it sits in has seen a lot. No wonder it's extremely haunted. If you've been here, if you've had an experience here, leave me a comment down below. I want to know. Drop your haunted requests in the comments.